Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Spin Cycle podcast, the podcast talking to the groups, the personalities, and the brands that make London and the UK an incredible place to be a cyclist. Today, we've got a special guest, really great guest, actually, and someone that we've been speaking to for a while and really excited to have on our podcast because it's not something that we've had before. It's Will Girling, sports nutritionist and coach. Will, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Hello, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Excited to chat all things cycling, food, apples and pears, and see where we go, eh?
So, obviously, we look to break the podcast into three main component parts: who are you, how to get into cycling. Second part, we'll talk about with Will about nutrition, cycling, coaching, all things under the sun. I know NJ's got some burning questions as our resident pro cycling stats website aficionado. And
Nice.
the third part we can talk about the usual white bib shorts, cobbles, style, coffee.
Yeah,
A few new questions in the rotation, so we'll do our best to get those out as well. So to start section one, Will, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into cycling?
yeah, sure. So I guess for the people that don't know of me, I am Will Girling. I'm a sports nutritionist for EF Pro Cycling mainly. I'm the head nutritionist there. I've been working in World Tour cycling for 4 years now. I've worked Pro Conti cycling for 2 years before that, and I've been involved in cycling since 2017 nutritionally. And before that, I've been involved in sport my whole career. I was a PT before that. I did some nutrition courses and qualifications, moved more into nutrition, did my master's degree, postgrad diploma, currently doing my doctorate in nutrition as well. And just got more and more down that avenue of endurance sport, cycling in specific. And it was like opening Pandora's box. It was a bit like that in that I was so curious about nutrition. I opened up that box and suddenly you realize how much you don't know. And I just dived down even deeper into that. And I think how I got into cycling as well. I actually got into cycling by coming back from traveling around the world, and I made a friend out there in New Zealand when I lived there for a while. We moved back to the UK around the same time, and we were like, oh, we want something different, wanted to do something. So we were like, oh, let's do something crazy. Let's go do the running of the bulls in Pamplona. And we were like, well, that's not enough. Like, we've got to add something to that. So why don't we cycle there?
Okay.
And we were like, yeah, that's a great idea. So then I hadn't ridden on a bike as an adult prior to this, and it was pure baptism by fire. Didn't know what bike to get. I went down to my local bike shop. I literally just bought the bike he recommended. It was too small, sadly. Didn't realize this until later on. Didn't give me any saddle advice at all. So I kept getting numb bits during my ride and whatever else. But then we got a ferry down to Santander in Spain. We rode all the way across to Pamplona, did the bull run, and then rode all the way the length of France back to UK. And that's how I fell in love with cycling. It was the hardest couple of weeks of riding I'd done. I kid you not, the longest ride I did before that was about an hour and a half. And I think my saving grace of being a PT and in sport, whatever, and general fitness actually just carried me through. But I had some really shocker days. Bonked more than I would like to. But yeah, it was super good.
And then from then afterwards, did you you continued? I guess you were living in
Yeah,
London. Did you then continue like the parks, the cafe, the chain gang, the cruise, that kind of thing, and then just move up from there?
yeah. So I continued like the bike packing part of it. Like what I really love about cycling is big days out. I love doing absolute monster days, and that's also what I like in the nutrition aspect of it. So as I was doing more and more nutrition, obviously an interesting part about nutrition is the longer a sport lasts, the more considerations nutrition has.
Yep.
And that's kind of what's taken me down that route, and I've worked with a lot of ultra endurance athletes, both running and cycling, and that's where I really have a lot of interest. And obviously, Tour de France is one of the biggest ultra endurance events in the world. So, thinking about all considerations for that and so on, it is also great fun, stressful, but fun.
Yeah. Did you make the bull run?
I did make the bull run. Yeah, it was absolutely. I wondered why I did it. I get moments of it. It was. I have such vivid memories of it. Like you go there and you get locked in, penned in, like sardines, and essentially there's a cannon is shot, and it tells you to spread out down the road. So you move down the road and so on like this, and then the second cannon shot lets you know that the bulls have been released.
Right.
And me and my mate were just like looking behind us and waiting, and we went past this corner, because there's a corner, I might be remembering the name wrong, but it's like Dead Man's Corner or something, because it comes around super sharp on the cobbles and all the bulls slip, and if you're up against the wall, they'll slip into you. So we moved past that. We were like, yeah, not going to get caught there. But I remember looking down the road and suddenly everybody's just running, and then the bulls are literally there, and I just running next to them, and it's just a crazy experience. Nobody told me though, when you get to the end, they lock you in a bull ring with the. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I managed to get there, and then they locked us in, and then they release a bull every like few minutes into the ring, and then the idea is you're meant to touch it and whatever. My friend managed to do it, but also got hit and broke his hand. So crazy stuff, man.
Christ alive. So
yeah.
How did you then kind of progress from there, I guess? Did you also, what bike did you end up getting first of all?
I had a giant TCX, which was like a cyclocross bike, which
so like,
and it probably wasn't the best purchase for a
arguably
trip.
Arguably the least versatile of all of the bikes is a cyclocross bike.
Yeah, exactly. I had two sets of brakes as well. It had the in handle brakes as well as the hood brakes, and it had space for your panniers and whatever. But like, it wasn't the best choice. My second bike was then a Cervelo R2.
Nice.
Which is what I got after that, which is nice. That was like my first kind of mid-range, like decent bike, but it was all inline bike packing then. So it was like Apidura packs and stuff, like frame bike packing. But those things waggle all over the place. Have you ridden with one?
No.
What, the one the one that just goes? There's two Velcro straps on the top bag, so it swings like this.
Yeah. So essentially, it attaches to your saddle post, and it's quite big. And if you pack it, and you like get out if you don't get out of the saddle, if you're going up a hill, it'll just like wiggle side to side, and it like just like tosses your bike, and it's just horrendous. I don't recommend. Like if you get a tailfin's where it's at. But yeah.
So were you always focused on the bike packing side, or from the kind of ultra endurance, or did you ever do pace lining, racing, anything like that? Or were you more focused on like the endurance side, capital E endurance?
No. Yeah, it was mainly endurance for me. So like personally in my own cycling, it was bike packing and endurance. And then I decided, in always the process of trying to challenge myself, I wanted to do a world record on my bike, which was ambitious. I was going to try and attempt the length of Europe in the fastest time. Was the record I was going to do. I had a team. I actually had Mark Beaumont's round the world team. Got sponsored, got everything. Yeah, I had a massive accident, sadly, on my bike. Got hit by a lorry, and that obviously ended my attempt. But in the setup to that, I'd done. I'd headed out to Spain, and I did some bike packing there, doing the route, and I did 7 days of 150 miles a day on the bike, just like cruising, like super light setups. yeah, great fun. I did some TTs as well whilst I was training for that. So I did some 50-mile TTs, which are really nice. Like absolute like pain cave of hurt, just like putting out max power you can for long durations. But yeah, good fun. Good fun for sure.
Do you get out on the bike much now?
Yeah. So I actually got out on the bike after my accident. I got out on the bike 3 months later. Well, I got on the turbo, and then about 4 months later, a bunch of friends were heading out to Calpe to do a training camp for themselves. So it was about 14 of us and stuff, and that was like part of like Francis Cade and Chris Hall, a bunch of my friends there. And I thought that was a great opportunity to go out with friends, be with friends, and get on my bike again. And I did that. Did that camp, rode my bike a lot. And I love riding my bike. I just probably ride it the least right now because I work in cycling and I'm constantly traveling to races. So yeah, it's funny how it works like that. I'm closest to the sport more than ever, and I'm riding my bike, I think, the least I have in the last few years.
Well, maybe we take that and head to section 2 and we hear about Will and nutrition. Thanks, guys.
Welcome back, everyone. So, Will, we heard that you were a PT coach. How did, I guess, nutrition play its part within your coaching, and how did, I guess, you develop the coaching and nutrition side together?
Yeah, no, exactly. So being a PT, obviously people come, they want their training, they want to get fitter, they want to improve themselves. And through those journeys and those conversations that I went through with people, so often they would be like, my gym is fine, I'm training fine on my own, but I'm not making that progress I want. I think it's my nutrition. And then you have those conversations about nutrition, and it's through those conversations and also my past history with my own relationship with nutrition that I was like, what, I need to look into this more. And I mentioned just before in that first section about that proverbial kind of Pandora's box, and that's that point where I started to kind of open that up and dive into it and realize how much I didn't know. And that's where I did a couple of independent, to be honest, quite shitty independent nutrition courses that like anybody could do. And they did improve my knowledge a little bit, but like not significantly. And I did a lot of self-study, ended up getting myself and improving myself to get on a postgrad diploma. Did that, got qualified on that. Then I did that master's degree that I did, and did my research in actually carbohydrate dosage and frequency in endurance cycling. And then I was working it at a pro conti team whilst I was doing my masters, and then continued obviously working at pro continental level, and then went on to world tour level, and that's where I'm doing my doctorate now.
Did starting to work in, cycling, did you always have the aim of when you were doing this nutrition, it would go into that because you started cycling yourself, or did it just come up by, accident, and you've taken that career path and you've kind of grown it how you want it to?
It was a bit of both. So it was like I had that bike packing experiences and knew that endurance sport and endurance nutrition is where it's interesting. I'd done some work with people in powerlifting and strongman and things like this, and it's super boring. Like, it's not really much to do for it, and so on. They all just want to get like, just eat and get big or whatever. So it's not the same kind of fueling requirements, So whilst I was, especially when I started my master's degree, and you had to then decide what you wanted to research, it was then that I was like diving really deep into research, into endurance sport, into nutrition, and realizing more and more where that passion of mine lied and how it related to my bike packing. And it was then that I decided that I wanted to work in professional cycling and be in that world. And that's when, I just went full steam into it.
Yeah.
And got myself on that Pro Continental team, and then just kept going from there, essentially. And I knew I wanted to end up at the Tour de France with a World Tour team when I started doing my master's degree. And
nice.
I actually managed. It kind of coincidentally ended up being 5 years to get there, to do that.
Yeah.
When people talk about 5-year plans, I didn't really make a plan to do it in 5 years. It just ended up being that long.
Yeah, I know nothing about writing a master's, so was when you, I guess, were writing the masters and you're working in this continental level team, were you using them as, like, I guess, case studies for, like, how to fuel, or did you sort of have an understanding of that already?
I tried to.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to, sadly. I would have loved them to be my guinea pigs. But no, instead I got a bunch of, like, really good, avid amateur cyclists who had, who are incredibly fit, and they were my guinea pigs for my research. But and some of them have become lifelong friends. Actually, one of them is now actually the chef of EF Pro Cycling.
Nice.
So yeah, he did my my research with me, and then became good friends with him from there, and now he's working with me, which is great. But I think with the research, it was like I just knew I wanted to do it in that space of endurance sport and answering some questions I had about it. I think that's the same with anyone in doing, like, master's degree and higher level work. It'll only work out if you have a passionate question you want to answer. Otherwise, it's just an absolute drag. It's just like super hard work, and if you don't really want to know the answer, you're just going to be like, oh, why am I doing it? So
yeah. So you touched on, I guess, getting to World Tour. Is there how different is it between, I guess, World Tour nutrition and, I guess, continental level
massive.
nutrition?
It is huge.
Really?
Just from an organizational level. Yeah, it's massive. So with a Pro Conti team that I was with, we had 15 riders, and we had 2 sports directors, 1 performance coach, 2 soigneurs. At this, for this period of time, we did meet with a few drop-ins and stuff, and then a couple of, like, logistics people.
Yeah.
At World Tour, you've got 30 riders, you've got multiple coaches across the board. I think we have, like, about 10 or so DSs. There's 10 soigneurs, a huge amount of organizational logistics that go into it. I mean, the things behind the working of a team are huge, and it's really hard to see the scope of it when you're watching races and stuff. But, like, that is really and truly the tip of the iceberg. The amount of work that goes in logistically and operationally behind the scenes is unbelievable, to be honest.
I guess, how often do you, as, like, the nutritionist, how often do you have to travel to races?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. My first year, I did all 3 Grand Tours, so that was a minimum of 90 days, and then I also did other races and other camps, so I was away over 100 days. And then it's kind of steadily declined over the years I've done, but I'll probably end up still doing probably around 70 days this year, 70, 80 days. I mainly spend my time at camps now, and being the only nutritionist on the team, if I'm at a race, which is very full on, it's very focused, it's with those riders and dealing with what's there at hand, that you can't spend that time being available for all the other riders that are not there. And that's obviously, at a race, you're only going to have between 6 and 8 riders. So that's another 24, athletes to deal with. So I spend more time now not going to races and going to camps and working with the riders. But I will be going to Indurain next week. Then I'll be at Basque Country, and then I'll be at the Giro. Then I'll go to a camp, and then I'll do the Tour de France. I'll also do the Vuelta, and I may end up at some of the Italian classics at the end of the year.
How does that relationship work between the riders and nutritionists? So is it a goal orientated thing where they say I need to lose a bit of weight, or I'm a bit too light for the classics, for example? How does
Yeah.
that relationship kind of work?
It's a collaborative effort that is a combination of talking between the doctor, the coach, the sports director, who also works with, because each rider will have a coach, obviously, a sports director that manages them. The head doctor will also liaise and chat with them about any medical related things, and then myself, who will work with them on nutrition. And quite often it's a collaborative conversation talking about the rider's calendar, expectations of the rider, and where we need to be in shape, where we can, relax a little bit, and that will dictate then where those focus points are in the year.
Fair. And I mean
You go, Ken.
So I guess the question from then is, so if we're focusing on the goals, and then the next part is you at a race, how does that work? So we've all seen Tour de France Unchained and the the racing series that EF have on YouTube. So how
Race
does
TV,
it Race TV? Yeah, I love Race TV. How does that work? Because I was watching the one for, I think it was one of the coupled races that happened last week, and they were there. It was at Strada Bianchi, sorry, and they were talking about, these are the amount of carbs I've got to have an hour. This is actually what I'm going to be eating. Here's my fueling strategy, and they have it on the stem typically and things like that, or in your Garmin or whatever you've got.
Yeah.
How does it work on the day? How do you fuel a World Tour team, or how do you, for an ultra endurance event, I guess like Tour de France, how do you ensure that you'll have a consistent or a spiking profile when the stage dictates it?
Yeah, it's a good question. Quite a complex one in some instances as well, but like it comes from like both. It starts from an operational point of view that you, and then kind of splits off in different avenues. You obviously have the working with the athlete and the rider, and him understanding how much he's going to fuel per hour, him training with those products, training the amounts he's going to achieve per hour, and then turning up obviously in the right shape and being able to manage that level of fueling per hour. That's one question. But then the other one is, okay, he needs to eat 120 grams an hour. How do I get that to him during a race? And that's then a case of how many feeds do we have? What do we deliver at our feeds? What do the soigneurs need to make and give at musette bags, on bottles, in the cars, all these kinds of things. And then they obviously need to understand and be knowledgeable about the products and things like this. And then that comes from me and the guidance that I give them about the products, how that's set up and everything. So they're the people that deliver it on the ground, and the soigneurs are great at doing that. And that's where that kind of all falls into place. So it has a bit of an operational, like logistical nature right there on the ground too.
I heard that someone was saying, I don't remember where I heard it, they were talking about the fueling strategy, and on long races, so classics days or like Queen Stage Tour de France, what this athlete did was they would have the bars first, then the gels, and then maybe only rely on the mix, because it's about, you build up a tolerance for the amount of carbs that you need to like metabolize. But then there's also a question of what can your stomach actually take after a long endurance event? Is that does that kind of factor into it too?
So when we look at, if we had a solid, a semi-solid, and a liquid, and they are all identical in terms of calories, carbohydrate, and let's say there is protein, fat, and fiber in them. If they're all identical, they'll all get digested at exactly the same rate, because it doesn't matter the form. It's about those other factors that then slow or speed up digestion. But what we do see, though, is, let's say they're all identical again, purely the process of chewing and eating food increases a feeling of fullness and the satiety from that product. So if you're having bars all through a race, you can start to feel pretty full by the end just because of that. Now, inevitably, bars, unless you're having like a chew bar, will have like fat and fiber and protein with them. It might not be much, but it'll be a little bit. So a bar will fill you up more, even on top of then the added process of chewing it. So if you're doing that for a full race and chewing all of it and eating all of it like that, you're probably going to end up feeling quite full. And when you're coming to the pointy end of the race and you're having to push a bit harder, dig a little bit deeper, that can feel uncomfortable. So they'll tend to start to shift that food choice just so it feels easier on them.
Nice.
That's really interesting. I didn't never really thought about, I guess, the chewing aspect, and I guess the mentalness of like, I guess, chewing in your brain, being like, oh, you're eating actual food, so you're going to get full up. It's quite interesting. It's definitely something I've not ever considered.
I tell you what, I'm
Happens
actually
sometimes
quite
with like
looking forward
smoothies.
to re-listening to this podcast. I know this is definitely going in. I'm actually looking forward to re-listening to this one. That's super interesting. We're a bit speechless. That's
Yeah.
actually really interesting.
Yeah, I was just like, I had a whole question lined up, but now it's.
I'm glad. Yeah.
Do you find that? So when you started, in your nutrition journey and where we are now, where athletes are doing 100, 120 grams of carbs per hour, I know the races become more intense, but still that's an incredible amount. Where, living memory, Chris Froome was saying, I'm having no carb days. I'm just focusing on proteins and things like that.
Yeah.
Where do you still have some hanger on from like back in the day that don't believe in it, or has there been just such a marked difference in speed, the dedication, the intensity within World Tour that people are now going, do you know what? If I need to be competing at these quick races, I need to be taking this really seriously and taking heed of advice.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good question. I think there was a lot of obviously talk about. I mean, it came up. I remember, was it 2018? Froome won the Giro on stage 18, and with that a monster attack. And it was. I mean, it's kind of like a different pace of sport then. It was all kind of like these pacey, long distance attacks or something that they have, whereas like everything's so much faster and harder now. Like you see the attacks at Pogačar and Vingegaard knocking out. It's just like it's crazy level difference. Where Froome would just like kind of just spin away, wouldn't he? Just like accelerate steadily away. And racing isn't like that anymore. And I think, but around that time, he would like, I remember seeing these like Twitter posts or whatever, and they're snapshots of a big program and a lot of research. And actually, a friend of mine, a guy called Dr. Sam Impey, who brought out a lot of the research around restricted carbohydrate training and its potential to increase your ability to perform. There wasn't really a whole amount of research that came out that actually proved it did help that. And there's also a lot of caveats that come with doing low carb training. Like if you do low carb training, it increases your cortisol response to the session, so your stress response to the session, which it does suppress your immune system further. So then if you're in a big block of racing, or it's a bit cold out, or maybe you've even got a bit of a tickle in your throat already, that's the kind of stuff that pushes you over and gets you sick. So when we think about things like that and where we put them in your training blocks and program over a season, it's not really much during the season at all, really, because it's just not worthwhile from the added stress to the session, potential risk of getting sick. And diving a bit deeper down at that question as well, is that we also have enzymes that break down fat and break down carbohydrates. So like if we think about enzymes as builders that knock down fat walls and carbohydrate walls, if you're somebody that does like a lot of fasted riding and all you do is fasted riding, what you'll do is start to hire more builders that knock down fat walls. So you get way better at it. But then because you're doing so much of that, you'll actually start to lay off and make redundant all your carb builders that knock down carb walls. And then if you come back to eating carbs, you're actually less efficient at it, and you're not able to break it down and deal with it as well as if you're doing it all the time. And when we think about, and I think this is why it's so important to consider, whether you're an amateur or a professional, what you're training for, what the event is, and what you're going to do at the event. So if I'm going to go to my event and eat carbs, then you should train a lot with carbs, because that's going to improve your ability to actually manage and deal with those items. Whereas if you're going to go do some ultra event, you could do that low carb and do loads of fat-based foods and things like this, because it may work for you. Yeah,
that's really interesting about how, I guess, does that, I guess, translate into, I guess, the topic of choice on YouTube and everywhere is zone 2 training, fat optimal burn, and all of that stuff. Would you, I guess, eat more fats when you're doing like zone 2 rides over, I guess, having more sugary based carbs?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So I think you've got two aspects to it. One is you still need to achieve total calories for the day.
Yeah.
So like if you burn, let's say it was a 4,000 calorie ride, it's a really long ride. You add on RMR, all the other aspects, you need to eat 6,000 calories, let's just say. Then you could, if it's a zone 2 day, the contribution of those calories could definitely come from more fat, because your utilization of carbohydrate will probably be lower. You won't need then to replace as much. And you could, as long as you get sufficient protein to support recovery and sufficient calories in for your full day, and at least enough carbohydrate to replace what you've lost, you could increase the fat. You could do it high carb, the whole thing, but I don't think you need to, and that's part of carbohydrate periodization, obviously.
Yeah.
If you're doing go on.
Oh, I was going to say, as you spoke about calories, would you say that the best way of working it out is either through your, like, I guess, bike computer, or if you use a wearable? Do you think they're accurate in how much you burn, and then I guess figuring out how much you need to eat and how much to, like, I guess, replenish?
Yeah. I mean, the most accurate one would be if you have a power meter and a heart rate monitor on.
Yeah.
And then those two bits of data together will give you an accurate number. So whatever then comes out on your head unit should be probably about right. And then you can put in to most free calorie trackers. You could add that number in, and then it will tell you how much you should eat on that day, and it should probably be about right. Maybe could be, if your resting metabolic rate's a bit off, then there's potential scope for that. But it's not often it's off by much.
We've spoken about, I guess, the World Tour pros. It'd be good to, I guess, talk about, I guess, us, me and Cam, how you're going to get us, the gains for 2024.
The gains, yeah.
So we know that you, I guess, you have your, I guess, nutritional coaching business. How would, if we were to, I guess, sign up to the Will Girling experience, what would we expect?
Well, the Will Girling experience is an exceptional experience, to be honest. So what I do with ambitious individuals that are wanting to improve and up their game, I think I have a 2-step process in how I have conversations before I even start working with somebody. And over that process, it's a case of having conversations to understand and fully appreciate your needs and what you're wanting to achieve as one thing, but then where the obstacles are that's stopping us from achieving that. And then I create a bespoke plan based upon those things. So I don't really have like an off the rack kind of cookie cutter program. It's like I have a couple of conversations with you. I understand you as an individual, what your goals are, what your sport is, when you're looking to achieve that by, and then what's stopping us from getting there. And I'll put then together a plan based upon that. I give you my recommendations. And if that sounds good to you, we crack on with that. and work with you over that period of time. And pretty much 99% of the time, if you do everything that we set out, for you, and you follow it, you'll achieve those results.
Nice. I know that you also have a team with.
Yeah.
So when you sign up, is it sort of you do the nutrition and then the other members of your team will do sort of, I guess, training plans for cycling, or is it all based around,
So
I guess, nutrition?
yeah, so it's mainly based around nutrition. We do some training plans for sure. But Liam, who's also on my
Yeah.
team there, it's we're both mainly focused on that nutrition aspect. And some people will work with Liam, some people will work with me, but then we collaborate on all people anyway. So we all
Yeah.
meet up regularly. We'll talk about everybody that we're working with, discuss about maybe the challenges they're facing, and just their progress overall, and make sure that we're able to help them in the best way and move them forwards
So
ultimately.
maybe speaking of the two camps, be it on the professional athlete side and on the more amateur side, do you see big physiological or neurological differences between the two camps of how they metabolize fuel? I'm sure that the professional athletes have been doing this for a long time, so maybe their body's used to, well, maybe better at it. But do you see a big difference, or is it is it a trainable thing?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. So we have oxidation rates that are kind of set to who we are as people. So that's why you had like 60 and 90 grams an hour. Like 90 grams an hour has come out as that number because that's where the bell curve is. That's where the majority of individuals sit. And that's the same whether you're, 50 kilos or 100 kilos. That's the same as if you're, well trained professional or if you're an amateur. So, but your ability to manage that is trainable. So your ability to train gastric emptying and the speed at which you move it through the stomach, that's what can be trained. But how much you're able to break down and use, that's pretty much, set within the averages of what we have in research. And that's moved forwards to like 120 grams because we've obviously getting more and more research. We also, if you look at the research as well and some of the individual readings you get, because these numbers come out, as I mentioned, from like the averages, right? But then that's how you get a reference range. But then there's always parts to those reference ranges that are like people that are either in the lower or the higher part. And there's, people doing 150 grams an hour that can burn all of it,
What?
So like there's, yeah, I mean, it's hard to eat 150 grams an hour, but like, there are outliers. And I think that's the interesting thing as well. When you look at the guys at the Tour de France and so on, like, especially at the Tour de France, they're like the 1% of the 1%, of all the population, only that percentage of people have reached this level of cycling.
Yeah.
And of all the people that have reached that level of cycling, these are the ones this year that are the best in the world right now. And, there are going to be different things about those people that make them be that peak, compared to what will be the everyday individual. So when we bring it back to your question about normal everyday people, you can train the gut, you can take on 90 grams an hour and even up to 120 grams an hour, but you need to train it. Do you need to? Well, that's a different question. Like, cafe rides and croissants are also pretty good, eh?
Yeah. I think what would be good is to, I guess, pick your brain about, I guess, maybe like the sort of, I guess, general types of rides that people might do and like might struggle with nutrition wise. I guess the first one would be early morning laps, whether it's, usually it's like,
Chat laps.
Chat laps, and then maybe like absolute like smash fest laps. I feel like there's no in between. There's no. So what would you?
Chain gang or chat laps, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And like 6 a.m. How would you recommend fueling for those?
I don't envy you getting up at 6 a.m. to do those. I mean, chat laps, you don't need to do anything. Like, if you're not feeling very well, you didn't sleep very well, and you still want to go for your chat laps, maybe have a banana on the way or something. Like as I mentioned about that kind of carb fasted aspect. Like, last thing you want to do if you're not sleeping well, or if you've, feeling a bit under the weather, or if it's really fucking cold out, is not have any carbs. Have a little bit of something. Doesn't have to be huge, and that'd be fine. And then for chain gang, I would, depends how much time you have, but the chances are it's going to be under an hour before you're out the door and heading out to meet your group. So what I would do is I'd be having some fast absorbing, high glycemic index carbohydrates. I wouldn't be having any fat or protein with it, because you'll slow down digestion with it. And I'd be having that 20 minutes or less before you head out the door onto the bike. And that's because as it'll take about 15 minutes to reach peak blood glucose levels after the ingestion of some of those foods. So you will be on the bike by the time you've eaten that food and it's peaking in your blood. And then because you'll be on the bike, you'll start using that blood glucose to help fuel the ride that you're doing. And then you'll just need to take another item on the bike, and that should see you through your chain gang. And that could be something simple. It could be easy, like slice of bread with some, it could be just bread and jam. It could be bread, honey and banana and some fruit juice. And that could already be like 300 mils of fruit juice is 30 grams of carbs. A medium banana is 20, 25, so we're at 50. Slice of bread is another 20, so that's 70. Have 30 grams of honey, that's another 25 grams of carbs. So you're pretty much at 100 grams of carbs, and that amount of food won't fill you up. So it shouldn't hit you too hard on the stomach if you're about to go chain gang it.
Nice. I'm ready for it.
Yes. Have a coffee with it as well, and it will speed up the absorption of it even more.
Perfect. And then I guess the other part, another ride people might do is like, I guess at the weekend we'll call it like 100k, which is probably like 4 or 5 hours.
The Cameron special, the weekend warrior. I'm out of the door. It's cold. It's dark. I haven't prepped anything. What would you plan for that? Where I'm time cramped, haven't got a lot of time. Smash it up a bit. No real training or no real plan apart from try not to get run over. What's the plan?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great plan.
And some obscure coffee shop somewhere in the middle.
Coffee in the middle.
Are you talking about how to fuel it, or like getting up early as well again?
Yeah, I get up early, so it's probably leaving the house at 7. My ride is leave the house at 7. I normally take with me a bar, a gel, bottle of mix, and a bottle of water. That ride is normally full of 2 coffees, no breakfast. What could be fixed here apart from mainly everything?
Do you get cafe legs on that?
No.
Oh, I always get cafe legs if I do a break in the middle of a ride like that. What would I do? Why don't you have a mix in the second bottle? Why is it water?
So I don't really know. Because I sometimes like to think that if I don't want to have the mix, I've got the water. So if this is bad. If I feel myself getting dehydrated, I don't have to take the carbs. I can just take the water. So it's more of a dehydration thing. I now realize I've got a dehydration protocol.
So, I mean, there's definitely like palate cleansing and water being nice for that. It can feel quite refreshing. It cleans out the mouth and everything. It's quite nice. But in terms of hydration, it's actually more hydrating to have sodium and carbohydrate in the drink than it is to have just water. And that's just to do with like osmosis that you learned at secondary school. So the having carbohydrate will cause you to draw on more water, as does the sodium and the electrolyte. So you'll pull on more water if you have mix, as long as the concentration of it's not too high. So if you have like a carb mix drink that's around 20 to 30 grams of carbohydrate, it can go up to 40, but for 20 to 40 grams there for like 500 to 600 mils, that would set you to be quite a really hydrating mix. Might not be palate refreshing as much, but yeah. And other things you could do, I mean, take a bunch of saurine lunchbox loaves.
I love them.
£1 for a pack of 5, 18 grams per loaf. solid shout. Tastes good, you know.
And
Not
you look
bad.
good doing it.
Yeah, Cam
Yeah,
doesn't,
exactly.
Cam doesn't like that I bring out 750ml bottles full of sugar because they aesthetically don't look nice. Is
That's
that
a big.
Hang on. That's only half
It's
true.
the truth.
So
Okay.
the primary reason for the 750ml is a mathematics thing for me. So if I've had
Okay.
2 bottles, it's a litre. 4 bottles is 2
But if you have-
litres. So that's
but
why I can then gauge. If I've had half a bottle, I can generally call it 250ml. Sometimes I return with a bottle of mix and a bottle of water. I haven't had a drink of either, but that's my problem.
For 4 hours.
Well, like a couple of hours, yeah. Sometimes I do that. I'm hoping that I can just breathe in the like the
Moisture in the
humidity.
air.
Yeah. Again, osmosis.
Drinking your own
Osmosis,
sweat.
baby. Osmosis is back.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of questions to be had though. Like it's how bothered you are about performance on your 4-hour ride as well, right? Like if you're getting around on your 4-hour ride and you're fine, you're not getting sick, you're doing what you want to do on the bike, then yeah, go enjoy it. Get your coffees and stuff. Like I think that there's sometimes a bit too much like what's the word I want? Like cycling can be quite cliquey sometimes. And like I think if you want to just go ride your bike and have fun on your bike, then just go do that. And like, do you need to fuel 90 grams an hour to do that? Yes, if you want to go and smash it up every hill on a Saturday with all the lads, then yes, I would say you do, and you'll feel better for it, 100%. And you'll be like, fuck, I'm going real good today, you know. But then like, if you want to go out and just chat with mates on lanes, oh man, just like aim for like 40 to 60 grams an hour.
So
and like that should.
What I've found is if
Mm-hmm.
it's funny how this works, Will. Maybe someone should look into this seriously. It's funny that if I set reminders on my wire to eat, and I actually bring gels and bars with me, after I finish my ride and I'm then dicking around with my daughter, I don't feel hungover, and that's what, or completely wiped out. I think that's what happens to me. I feel it completely wipes me out, and I don't know if it's my body trying to right itself, but the endorphins finish, and then I feel terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be on multiple levels. Like you have an increase in muscle damage if you don't fuel on your ride. So you will feel more wiped, and you'll also feel more wiped because you're drained. You're just empty because you haven't fueled it. So then you kind of get in like a double whammy of like you're more exhausted both physically from like how you've experienced that session on a muscular level, but then you're also low on energy. And that's where also like you tend to get all the kind of negative binging habits with cycling. You go out for a 4-hour ride, you don't fuel it, you come back, you're pretty much on the verge of bonking, or you have bonked, and then you come back, take the bike in, you run to the fridge, and you fucking just hit the fridge hard. And you go and grab whatever, and then like you've got like suddenly that teaspoon's in your hand, and like you're digging into like little things or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what happens, right? And that's where you suddenly consume like 1,500 calories like super quickly.
Yeah.
Do you have any, I guess, good tips for that? For I guess when you come home, like good little staples that you should have in your cupboard for when you come home, and it's good to like I guess stop your binging straight away, and it's like a good.
I mean, yeah, obviously fueling on the ride is going to be one thing.
Yeah.
I think Cam, you hit it on the head in that like if you take the stuff with you, you'll probably use it, and it doesn't always have to be expensive ride nutrition. You can do it with sugar water, you can do it with honey, you can do it with cereal bars, especially low fat ones like Kellogg's Rice Krispie Squares, with like the marshmallow ones. So good.
I love them.
A little bit hard to chew.
I smash the Aldi versions of those.
Exactly, like super
They're
cheap.
so good,
Alpenlight are pretty good as well. And then Saurine in like all its many forms that you have now, even like the Lift bar, though that's weirdly more expensive. And then you can obviously use sweets and any format of like Haribo and Haribo lookalikes and so on. And they'll all like do it super cheap, right? Marshmallows when it's cold.
Yeah.
Marshmallows are a great shout. I love having those in my pocket when my top tube bag just full of marshmallows. But it's all just sugar, like
Yeah.
all these sports drinks and stuff. It's maltodextrin, which is a new form of glucose. It's a glucose polymer, so it's been created to just be a longer chain of glucose. But it's the same thing. Does the same thing to your teeth, all of it. So, yeah, you can just do it with sugar if you want.
If you are making sugar water, is it literally just measure out the sugar and with like scales and put water in it?
Yeah, 100%. Easy. It's sugar is sucrose, which is a 1-to-1 ratio of glucose and fructose. There's been a whole bunch of research that shows that sucrose can work equally as well as maltodextrin and fructose in a 2-to-1 ratio. Like, you can buy maltodextrin on its own as well if you wanted. So you could easily put in, if you put in 100, like, let's just make maths easy for the moment, 100 grams of sugar, that's going to be 50 grams of fructose and 50 grams of glucose. You could easily add in a little bit of maltodextrin, which would be 50 grams. This bottle's too strong, but let's just go with it for numbers. 50 grams, you've made your own 2-to-1 ratio, and it's super cheap. That's like crazy cheap. I think you get a bag, like a kilo bag of maltodextrin for like under a tenner.
Oh wow!
So not only are we giving nutrition tips, we're now just giving money saving tips. Will Girling's got it all. But, well, before we kind of head to section 3 Q&A, I've got a question about the post ride stuff. So
yeah,
it's important to it's important to take on carbs, calories when you're cycling.
Yeah.
So everybody knows that if you've done a hard muscular exercise, you should really take the protein immediately after, or as soon as you can after you finish cycling. But is there something around spacing out your meals after you ride, or spacing out your fueling after, so then your body's got time to absorb the carbs rather than just binging, dumping it all in and not getting absorption?
No, there's like optimal like frequencies and dosing, but like that stuff that I do with the guys, at the world tour level, that's what they need. I have like a specific regimen of food that is delivered to them when they go past that finish line, given to them by the soigneurs, and when they arrive on the bus, and then they shower, and then they get another meal, and then there's a snack, and then there's this, and it's all listed out for them, and they know exactly how to hit it to reach all those extra little percentage marginal gains. But as an individual, like a normal everyday person, it's not actually as super important if you're just going your one ride a day and you're then going to chill out or something, and you can come back. Don't have to have the protein straight away. You can do, but you can, go shower and then come back and do it. What's most important is total protein intake over the whole day. That's the most number one important thing. And then you can look at more of like the frequencies and timings. Because you can get all the timing and all the frequency right, but if you don't have enough protein, it's still not enough.
That's good. That's good to know. I've got I guess we spoke about food, and we didn't touch on it when Cam was talking about dehydration. How important is it, I guess, with electrolytes and I guess salt, like I guess all your salts coming out of you? Is it, we've only really, I guess, spoken about carb on the ride. How important is it also to, I guess, keep all your other levels up?
Yeah, electrolytes and things like this. Yeah. So it's an interesting one. Like, if we talk about cramp in specific, most cases of cramp aren't caused by electrolyte loss or too much sodium loss. A lot of it's actually caused by not able to deal with the level of intensity or the duration. You're just not used to it or something like this. It's normally when it happens when you're at your most fatigued, ultimately, is when it really happens. Can also coincide typically with warmer weather and things like this, but I think they're more like small contributing factors to what's already a big level of fatigue. But sodium, it increases the absorption of the water, hydrates you better, and it is worthwhile having it in all your bottles and things like this. Sure. If it's hotter, definitely. The main pitfall about it all, and the thing you need to be cautious of, I guess, in like not diluting yourself and not causing yourself problems, is where if it's very hot, you think about it as like concentration levels. I don't know, is it video on the
Yeah.
So if you have concentration levels, you have hydration, like fluid, and then we'll have sodium as well. If we, let's say, sweat loads and both come down, right? So electrolyte loss and fluid loss goes down. If we then just drink water, we're then moving this back up, but we're still having this level of sodium, which is then within this water, and you're diluting yourself. So now you've got a lower concentration of sodium spread over more water, which is what causes the issue of dilution and that hyponatremia, which can, every year somebody will die at London Marathon from it. It always happens, sadly. But so that's where, if you actually didn't drink anything and it went down, you're actually fine in some weird way, because the concentration to the water is the same.
Yeah.
You're increasing your sodium concentration because you have less fluid and you haven't replaced it. So then it's important that if you drink more water, that's where you need more of that electrolyte, to make sure that those concentrations are still staying the same.
That's really
Does that make
interesting.
sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Hopefully I didn't make it too complicated.
Yeah. And then there's quite a lot of, I guess, fitness supplements out there. Do you think, do they, I guess, for ambitious amateurs like ourselves, are those something that you think would help our riding, or
are they just snake oil?
Snake oil, or more beneficial if you're like up there in the 1% club?
No, I think like there's a lot of them out there that will tell you that you should get them, and I don't think you probably need to. If you're going to get any supplements, I'd get vitamin D and I get omega-3, because they will help your recovery. They'll improve your bone density, they'll improve your immunity, they'll reduce inflammation, they'll reduce your risk of heart disease. They're great choices for both health and in turn also your performance. And I think that's a win-win. And they're pretty cheap, especially vitamin D. And then if you're going to get some like performance-based supplements, your bog standard creatine is probably the best one to go for. Like, you can get it for $5, definitely less than £10. It will last you for quite a while. It will improve your 10-second power output, but I wouldn't say you'd be really taking it for that. What it will really do is improve your recovery between sessions.
Yeah.
Because that's also what it does. And it's cheap and inexpensive. All the other ones start to get a bit pricey. I mean, look at like Morton Bicarb. It's €75 for 4 packs.
Yeah.
It's like,
is that the frog spawn porridge they do now?
Yeah, exactly.
Hi, Morton.
Like
Don't sponsor this podcast.
Yeah, it's just gunk in a little bowl, man. Like, no, I'm all right. But
what is the bicarb thing hype, or because I see, it's a proper, but lots of people are really into it, right?
Yeah. I've had some good chats with Morton, like their head nutritionist and stuff. When you look at the papers and things, they are going to be published papers coming out later this year on it. But from the data I've seen, the bits that we've done with it as well, it does work. It is a good choice if you're doing like a long road race. That's maybe a 1-day race or something like this. There's lots of maybe things to consider for it, but it is worthwhile if you are looking for ultimate performance.
And I guess the last thing on the list of speculative things, is it nitrates, beetroot?
Yeah, you could do that.
Nitrate.
Yeah.
That's real. That's full on working, because I see people doing also the what's the one they've been taking that's might have to cut this out, NJ, while I'm thinking. It's a thing they start. It's all right. Hang on, NJ, you'll know the name of it. It's the stuff that they've been putting into their mouth, but also then just spitting out. if you've seen,
Do you mean like mouth rinsing or?
Yeah, the mouth rinsing of
Method?
mouth rinsing nitrates or something like that. Yeah.
Don't know.
Oh, is it like putting sugar in your mouth and then not swallowing it, kind of stuff like that?
Yeah,
That's
Or like,
actual mouth rinsing.
or putting like a gel in your mouth, but it's like not full, or the wrapper or something like that. So it makes you think that you're having sugar. Is that what you're thinking about?
That exists. Mouth rinsing does exist, but it's only trickery for your mind, essentially, your body. Like it works, it improves performance for like sub 1 hour sessions. So if you're going to do an early morning turbo session, but you didn't want to eat any calories, you could mouth rinse.
So, Will, I have a question about ketones.
Oh, ketones.
Yes. The allegedly the magic thing, or the thing that can be done, can be taken,
hype.
or can't be taken. Yeah, hype.
Yeah, hype.
We'll put you down.
There's no so many like papers that are just like a mixture of data that's nothing really proven. I think there's more research that needs to come out of it, and it's so expensive. Until more research come out and it's definitive, I just wouldn't bother.
Fair.
That's for sure.
Look, maybe we head to section 3 and hear Will's comments on our exhaustive and
I've got them here on this quick fire on your PDF, unless you've got different ones.
We've got different ones now. We've got different ones.
We've moved on. We're heading to section 3.
I love it.
We've evolved like nutrition. Welcome back, everyone. We're into the Q&A. So this could be as quick or as long as and deep as you want, Will. But we'll start with the eternal question of, what do you prefer, Regent's Park or Richmond Park?
Oh, Richmond Park every time. 100%. Better ride. I did 185 miles around Richmond Park. Can't do that around Regent. I'll be dying around Regent. Probably potentially literally. But yeah, it's a disaster, isn't it? Riding around Regents.
So
you do laps there regularly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I prefer the inner circle to the outer circle. I like going clockwise these days.
Yeah,
everyone goes anti-clockwise, and I'm probably like one of like 5 people go around the other way, and I'm like, there is so many people that like, if you're, I guess, if you're like racing and you're thinking and you're putting in like 15-hour weeks and you're going like anti-clockwise, I'm like, anyone could just chop you, like,
yeah,
because you're like, if you're going hard, you're probably going like 45k an hour, and anyone could just pull out in front of you. It's whereas clockwise, you kind of half. There are cars on like one half of it, but the other half is like it's just empty.
Yeah, agreed.
Have you been to Richmond Park since they put in all the fun play equipment?
No.
The traffic calming measures. You haven't been, Will?
No.
Yeah, that record is never going to be broken ever. There's now like big wooden gates. Some of the parts they've turned into a single lane, so with wooden barriers, so cars have to wait for each other. There's big turnstile style things where you really have to slow down.
Was it not fine before?
Apparently not.
Oh, crazy!
Yeah, it's crap.
Crazy. Yeah.
So next question, I guess you have a different insight to most people. It's the question: is cobblestones or mountains? Are you? Oh, here's the thing:
to ride or
part.
to.
So normally we do to ride and to watch, but maybe for you the third one is to work on.
Mountains to work on, 100%. Better views. Though I have been left on top of mountains doing feeds quite a few times, and it's rained.
Oh no!
Or I've had hail as well, and I was in shorts and t-shirt. That was an experience. And then to watch. Ooh. Mountains.
Yeah.
I
You
think
riding
probably
mountains
more of
too?
a mountains guide. Yeah, riding. Mountains as well. I like views for me, always views. Cobbles to watch. Oh, Flanders is very good.
We are in cobble season.
My favorite race of all time is Strada Bianchi, which is kind of like neither, but it comes in cobble season, so maybe we'll say cobbles.
Fair.
We'll accept that.
Yeah, Strada Bianchi is incredible.
Do you have a favorite climb at all?
A favorite climb. Trying to think of any of the ones that I've been on where it's been quite memorable for me.
Yeah,
Bond 2 was quite incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there. That was the stage that Van Aert won.
Oh, very cool.
Oh, the double
the
ascent.
double Von 2 ascent. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, watching them drop. Watching them drop Kenny Ellis on, I was like,
exactly. I was pretty much at the top, the peak of that climb doing a feed. So I got to see like all the cool bits and also all the people getting dropped. Yeah. So like it was a pretty cool day, that's for sure.
Fair. So maybe the most important question on this podcast. So you would have seen it. Lots of pros now rocking the white bibs. I also feel that if there was ever going to be a slight flip kit, the EF team would do a Giro kit that maybe has white bibs for kind of extra panache. Well, where do you stand on the white bib short, chat? Are you a fan? Would you ever wear them?
Never.
Never.
No, I'm not a fan at all. I don't know what it is. I don't feel like they're very. Oh no, it's just not a good look for. I didn't like Remco wore his white ones, and I didn't think they were a great look. And Van der Poel as well. It's like I'm not the biggest fan of it. Definitely prefer black shorts. What about you guys? You're both white short fans.
Cam is pro white shorts. I call myself a white short ally, as in I support in its endeavours, but I do see the downsides of a lighter short. I think all of my shorts are black. Although Cam did buy me a present, which are green shorts, so I wear those for
I like
this
green
year.
shorts.
But I find any light color, like I see, like I think Cam was wearing light grey shorts at the weekend.
I was,
and if that rains, then you're in trouble.
It did rain.
Also,
the whole thing with so I'll be honest with you, the grey shorts also aren't great when it's a little bit hot because it shows sweat.
Yeah, I think that's what I've seen on some of those lighter color ones, like the grey, light greens, like stuff like that.
You need dark short or white.
Yeah, I guess white doesn't show that as much, but then white will get dirty as well, though.
Just buy a new pair.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, just buy a new pair.
Good washing machine.
Thinking about it wrong.
Okay, so our next fashion question. I don't know how often you wear, I guess, leg warmers or tights, but are you a sock under or over?
I am an under.
Team under
with the leg warmer. Yeah,
that's good. That's what I am. Cam is an over.
No, I'm not. I'm not an over. The shit stoppers. I don't wear those. My leggings are over the top of my socks. My socks go underneath, 100%. No way. Any other way is wrong, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I feel like that's the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it when I see people's socks on the outside, and then we go on down dirty lanes, and then the socks are just ruined. And I'm like, it's also kind of like horrible having to touch your sock, right? Like, it's all right taking off a leg warmer.
I quite like also in the tights, just either rolling up the bottom a turn or slightly lifting the leg up so you have just a little bit of sock length above the ankle. I think that's always like quite a nice little fresh look, especially if you've got the white socks on. Little bit Mankle, you could call it, the man ankle stuff.
Yeah. I like a bit of mankle. Yeah.
I think it's quite a decent look, actually.
So on group rides, Will,
Do's and
what
don'ts.
do you have any, I guess, do's and don'ts of the group ride?
Do communicate all potholes and things that are in the road. Dear Lord, I've been on some group rides and it's been horrendous. And like everybody's just weaving out the way suddenly because people aren't spotting things. Don't. I probably. I can't say as many don'ts I can think of, but maybe like sayings of like eating's weak or what is it?
Eating's cheating.
Yeah, eating's cheating. There we go. Thank you. Yeah, stuff like that. Like no, not about that. Or guys that if the tone of the group ride is to smash it on every climb, then yes. But then if it's not, and then you just go ahead and do that, then that's a bit of a no. That's a no for me. I'll be like, I'll catch you later.
I think it's also if you know who you're cycling with as well. If you don't know them, then that's probably like shit. Like it can't be helped. But if you know your mates always smash it all of the
Yeah.
time, then it's usually definitely on you.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess this will be a good one. What before Ryan? I guess what you put in your like back pockets.
Yeah, I have my. I like low stuff on my bike. I do like to run it quite clean, that's without a saddlebag and stuff like this. If I'm not bike packing, so I'll have my pump and my whatever in my middle pocket, and then I'll run. Yeah, probably Soaring for sure on a ride. I will take gels on a ride still because I do like a gel. I quite enjoy them. And then what else will I ride? Oh yeah, phone. And then I feel like there was something else. Oh, I think that's it.
Are we thinking tools? Or are we thinking food?
No, I'm thinking food. I'm trying. There's
Got a bit
definitely
of
something
banana
like.
in there.
No, I don't do banana, but like I did my ready roll icing. I found out the hard way though that you don't do that in summer. It melted. I'd gone through the whole of winter with marshmallows and icing, like ready roll icing. I was like, yeah, I'm killing it. This is the best. Love it. And then when it like suddenly snapped and was super warm, I remember putting my hand in my pocket and it all melted, and it was just like just like runny icing and runny marshmallows in my pocket, and I was like, oh, that's not. I probably won't do that again. But in the winter, great choice. Yeah.
So
Have you done the Soaring hack as well, where you cut one in half and then take half the packet, and then you like put the packet in the pocket?
No.
And then
what?
So you take the loaf, the big loaf,
Yeah.
right? And then you cut the loaf in half, and then you take half the packet as well. You put the packet as a liner in your pocket, and then you cut the loaf into slices, and then you put it in the packet.
Oh my god,
that's
so good.
How many carbs would that be?
It's quite a lot. I think it's about 100 grams of carbs in a loaf of Soaring. Solid choice, especially the banana one.
Oh yeah, it's actually quite good, isn't it? I love a bit of Soaring.
Is there I guess, yeah, because I like that the beetroot one.
They have a beetroot one?
You get like
really?
It's like
extra nitrates. Is that what you get?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on, mate.
Get a beats in. Get the beats in.
Can't kid a kidder, can you?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a mind game, really.
Yeah. Pull out some nitrates. Everyone's like, "Oh, he's serious."
So, we spoke about it earlier about cafe legs. We're at kind of as and when you're stopping. What's your coffee order? Or and the second part of that is, where's your favourite place to stop? Where do you think people should need to know about?
Well, I'm the same way as NJ. So I ride out into Hertfordshire a lot. And where would I stop? Oh, I'm trying to think. I'm kind of terrible for stopping, honestly, because I ride on my own quite a lot. But there's that one in Essex, and I forgot the name of it now. Blue Egg. I've done that one.
Blue Egg's great.
And then there's another bakery that way. But there's a great bakery in Ware called Proto Artisan in Ware. If you want an incredible patisserie place, that's where you want to go. Coffee's not as good though, sadly. And my coffee order, it would be cortado.
Oh, aficionado's choice.
Yeah, like a little bit of milk, but like I'm probably having the coffee more to like drink and have it gone rather than sit too long, because that's when I get cafe legs, and I can't. I hate cafe legs.
Fair.
Can't stop.
Not the worst feeling, is it not? It's just like, oh,
yeah,
half an hour of just awful riding.
Yeah, it's all right in the summer. In the winter, it's quite horrible. Summer, you're like, oh, it's warm. I don't really mind. I'll just have another lemonade. I'll just keep drinking that. But like in the winter, I'm just far too cold to stay anywhere longer than like 20 minutes.
Agreed.
I just want a quick coffee, maybe like a cookie or a cake, and we're on again.
Yeah, hit me with a mini Battenberg. Yeah.
Oh, a Battenberg is such an underrated cake, isn't it?
Yeah. Have you seen they do mini ones now?
Oh, like Mr. Kipling?
Yeah, Mr. Kipling do like little mini ones, like Soaring, Soaring lunchbox loaf size. Amazing, game changer.
And then we're gonna end the section with what your cycling dislikes. This can be as niche the better, is what we say.
Oh, niche the better. Cycling dislikes. Oh, like definitely. Probably like the cliqueiness of it in some ways, but then if we're going niche, I can't say I know a lot about bike equipment on on a huge level. So I'm not very good at those conversations. So I probably just dip out of one of those, or I'll nod and smile. Yeah, I know it. Just like, oh, here you go. I like mechanical.
Oh.
I don't know why. Well, kind of know why. Just because the amount of rides I've been on with people with Di2 that runs out of battery or goes on emergency mode is actually quite funny. Like, honestly, people are like, "Oh, it barely ever happens," and I'm like, I've been on so many group rides, and somebody has had it go wrong, and then they're stuck in one gear, and I'm like, no, I'm all right. I'll stick with mechanical.
Fair.
If I was racing though, I would go for it if I was doing more TTs or something. But like, yeah.
Fair.
No.
Well, thank you so much for coming on our podcast. It's been really great to get to know you, really great to chat to you, and super interesting to learn more about nutrition. And there was a point there where NJ and I forgot we were on a podcast, and we were just listening to you like we were listening to someone talking, professionally about it. So like that we'd paid to go and see. So just thank you so much for sparing the time with us this evening to be on the podcast. Where can people find you? How are you reachable?
Yeah, they can go to willgirling.com, which is my website, or they can find me on Instagram at willgirling as well. And I do have a YouTube channel. I haven't put anything up there in a little while, but I will be putting some stuff up in the near future. But there's a whole bunch of educational videos on there that I mainly stopped putting out purely because the research had kind of reached its point and there wasn't anything new coming out, and I wasn't there to clickbait really. So you can just search Will Girling on there, and you can find some interesting research that I've reviewed for people. And so yeah, check it out.
Great. Well, thanks again, Will, and everybody, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for coming, Will. Bye.